news is this from Adam Schefter on his Twitter feed moments ago, seconds ago. The Baltimore Ravens, who last night find out that last night their doctors tell them they cannot conclude the trade for Max Crosby, have now reached agreement on a 4-year, $112 million contract with Trey Hendrickson. We would describe that as the ultimate pivot in Baltimore. Hendrickson, as you see, stays in the AFC North, will now face Burrow, blah, 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 blah. Shefty is ready to go with us here this morning on a very busy day for him. Shefty, you look good. I did the math very quickly. 112 divided by 4 is 28, so we'll call it $28 million a year for Trey Hendrickson. Shefty, go.
It's a deal worth up to $30 million a year. And as we mentioned in the first hour, Greeny, the Baltimore Ravens initially were talking to Trey Hendrickson about playing with Max Crosby. So they were talking to him all along. Now Max Crosby gets taken out of the equation, and Trey Hendrickson reaches an agreement on a 4-year deal with the Ravens that will keep him in Baltimore. And he will now stay in the AFC North. He had been looking for guaranteed money. He had been looking for stability. He had been looking for a long-term deal. Baltimore gives him those particular long-term deals, and that's a situation where he felt like this was the spot. By the way, he's calling right now, so we could talk to him. Hold on 1 second.
Okay, go ahead.
Talk to those guys. Yes, sir. We're on Get Up right now.
Take the phone. All right. But
this guy's the GOAT.
I don't know if we want to listen to that. Yeah, let Shefty have his conversation. We'll talk more about that. That's Adam Schefter in a nutshell right there. So that's phenomenal. So that's the story here.
All-timer.
Here's the bottom line. And I'll just say this. I'm looking at my football players right here.
By the way,
all right? Here's what I don't know who the 14th pick in this draft is going to be. I host the First Draft podcast, so I know the names that will fall in that general area, and I don't know what we will decide the Ravens' needs are. But I think one might make an argument that whoever the 14th pick in this draft is, plus Trey Hendrickson, in the short term, might be just as valuable, if not more valuable, than Max Crosby. Now, Shefty just said that they were talking to Hendrickson anyway. Maybe this deal happens even if the Crosby deal doesn't get called off. We'll never know. But taking only what we know into account, to me, the Ravens come out of this outstandingly well. Dan.
Max Crosby is one of 3 or 4 people that ruin games. Trey Hendrickson's a great player, led the NFL in sacks 2 years ago. Great player. Max Crosby, I would tell you, when he's at his best, different level. I don't disagree that the Ravens now getting Trey Hendrickson and keeping that pick as for now, and if they can get a high-level interior offensive lineman with that pick in a much better overall, I don't want to say better. They're in a very strong place in comparison to where they were with giant question marks at some spots.
I'll give you a name, which would be Spencer Fano, could be a player who could be available there, was a tackle in college, will probably move inside, might be available at number 14. They lost Tyler Linderbaum, their center. He might be someone. I'm just making up a name here. I have no idea if that's who they'll take at 14. But that combination, I think this is as good a pivot as you could have possibly imagined.
Yeah, I think what Dan is saying, I agree with, assuming that the Max Crosby you were going to get is the Max Crosby that they expected. I still think ultimately they would have rather had this work out the original way they planned, because that was the assumption they were getting that version of Max Crosby. If they believe, based on what the doctors suggest, that that version of Max Crosby isn't going to be there, this is an excellent pivot. It seems like the Raiders are the big loser in all of this, obviously, because what they had was a foundation of something that we were starting to believe in the Raiders for the first time in a long time. And that changes. You can overhaul a bunch of things, including that offensive line, with 3 picks in the first round over the next this draft and next draft.
Right.
That's gone now, and now they have a player that can't help them win the championship that I think they're aiming for, and is much less valuable than he was just a day ago.
I do feel compelled to point out that this signing cannot be official until he passes a physical.
Well done.
I'm not kidding.
Right.
Well done.
Right.
He was injured too.
He wasn't. But anyway, there's no reason to believe it won't. The Ravens are in some level of desperation mode with regard to their pass rush. It was extremely out of character for them to give up 2 first-round picks for a player, even 1, let alone 2. It's extremely out of character for them to sign an outside free agent at this level, and this might be a little in the weeds, but these compensatory picks teams get every year, the Ravens are the most obsessed and the best at getting them. They were going to get a 3rd-rounder next year for Tyler Linderbaum signing with the Raiders. Now this probably cancels that out. My point is the Ravens are acting like a team that feels a great deal of urgency to fix their biggest problem, which has obviously been the pass rush. So I would not rule them out for an edge rusher at 14 in the draft. Interior lineman or edge rusher is probably the way they'll go.
Okay, I'm told that Schefter is back and rolling with us again here. Schefter, what other things can you add to this? I'm particularly interested in what we should expect to happen with Max Crosby now. He's been traded. That trade has been rescinded. It's a complicated place. He needs time to continue getting healthier. Teams will be interested. What should we be expecting to happen there as that story progresses?
The Raiders already have gotten several calls from several teams about a potential Max Crosby trade. But again, it's difficult to see that happening right now. I guess he could turn around and be traded, but the fact of the matter is he's still going to have to go through that physical process and still have to pass a physical. And that's the situation now with Max Crosby. Will they be open to listening the way they were? Yes. I think the Raiders are in the same spot they've been in all along in regards to Max Crosby. They would like to hold on to him. They recognize he's been interested in moving on. They want a fair offer in return. The issue now is, can they get a fair offer coming off this when they had 2 1s in their pocket, lose the 2 1s? What's a fair offer now? And what team is going to be willing to step up and pay the price at this time when there are medical questions? And again, I just want to point out, in speaking with his surgeon this morning, he had the surgery 2 months ago. He came off crutches 1 week ago. He was on crutches until last week. He is not ready to pass a physical until a few months from now, a couple of months from now. So there could be a team that's willing to trade for him. Are they going to pay full price in the condition that he's in, or would they be willing to pay full price later in April before the draft, maybe in June, maybe in training camp? Micah Parsons didn't get traded till later in the summer. Maybe at that point in time, when Max Crosby is healthy again, which is the expectation, maybe that's the time he's traded. We'll have to see.
I have a question. I'm sorry my brain goes here. In a matter of 16 hours, they went from bringing Max Crosby in Baltimore, giving him his physical to execute finally this trade, to giving $112+ million to Trey Hendrickson. Do the Ravens have to prove that he failed their physical?
No, it's subjective.
Yeah.
Like, see, that's the thing that people have to understand. It's not.
There's nothing signed.
It's not pass-fail on the physical. It is, based on what we saw, we don't feel comfortable giving up 2 first-round picks for this player. That's what it is. So
and I can literally just say that.
Yes, you can back out of anything for any reason until 4 o'clock this afternoon. First of all, they don't have to give anybody a reason. But it seems like what we're being told is this was the reason. They felt like whatever they saw in that physical convinced them it was not worth the price they had agreed to pay.
What I'm interpreting is that what Dan is doing is you are doing what a lot of fans will do when they'll say, all of a sudden we saw ourselves with a better opportunity and we could just say that we failed the physical. The physical is subjective, as Mike Tannenbaum pointed out earlier today. It would be quite an accusation to make. All these teams operate under at least some assumption of good faith on themselves and each other's part, that if we make a trade, we're going to agree to it. It is also, it is not an opinion, it's a statement of fact. He had surgery. Schefter literally talked to Neil Elatrash at 5 o'clock this morning, the surgeon who performed the surgery. He's been off crutches for a week. So I understand where your mind is going.
16 hours of going like, whoa.
And people will do it. But there is also a perfectly plausible explanation for it where all this could happen without anyone having done anything wrong.
And given the track record of that organization, I think we owe them the benefit of the doubt. It's not one of the teams that we have a reputation of operating in a ridiculous manner. I understand, like, that's there, but they also could have just pivoted fast. They also could have recognized all these things, and when the market dynamics changed, they changed along with them.
Schefter says they were already talking to Trey Hendrickson, so they knew what the asking price was. It's possible your deal falls apart. Overnight, you decide to go above and beyond to make sure you get the guy, and the Eagles or whoever don't.
I'm particularly interested in what happens with Max Crosby now, because one of the things that Graziano, you said earlier this morning that makes a lot of sense to me is that the concerns regarding, and again, I'm not a doctor. I didn't talk to Neil Elatrash at 5 o'clock this morning like Schefter did. But you were suggesting that the concerns about Crosby may be longer term. Not so much that he can't play this year, but that this might limit how long he can be a great player, and to give up 2 first-round picks for that could be what ultimately made them have cold feet on the trade. Am I
that was
paraphrasing
sort of along the lines
correctly?
of the impression I got talking to people about
Fair.
this last night. That was more the concern than impact on this.
But what that
season.
says to me,
Yeah.
if indeed that is the case, is that Max Crosby remains, at least at this moment, what we think he is, which is a game wrecker, which is a level up from Trey Hendrickson. So still a player who we expect to be healthy enough to play this coming year and could still be the guy who makes a difference in someone winning a championship. And now someone who might be available for a whole lot less than 2-1.
And that's why I'm struggling to consistently hear, like, this team no longer interested, this team no longer interested. Like, if you're the Cowboys, I understand you added Rashawn Gary. Why would you, if you were interested last week for a first-round pick, why would you not be interested? If you're the Buffalo Bills, why would you not be interested at least trying to get him into your building, getting him in front of your doctors? Why would that's what I'm struggling with.
I agree. Like, if I were the Cowboys, I would definitely, look, Packers, we're sorry. We have this opportunity.